Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy. I hope you're doing really well wherever or whenever in the world that you are. If my outfit looks familiar, that's because I'm filming 2 videos in the same day. Oh man, I don't bulk film very often, but I'm going out of town, and so I figured I wanted to get ahead on all of my YouTubing, and so here we are. So forgive my stammering if I'm a bit flustered with my words. I'm not used to chatting this long with you guys. Today we're gonna be doing a fun book tag in the spirit of March, and this is a tag that I found on a reading blog, Words About Words, and this book tag is the March Madness book tag. And if you're not familiar, March Madness is a college basketball tournament that happens every March for the national championship. It's very, very exciting. You make brackets. It's a grand old time. Even I get hooked by some of the fun that goes into creating a March Madness bracket and watching games and sports betting, like things that I never do any other time of the year, but March, 'tis the season for it. And so I figured it would be fun to do a March Madness book tag. I'll be sure to leave the original link for the blog in the description down below, and I'll tag some people at the end. I've not read through all of the tags. I've not done any pre-work, so I'm gonna try to be as concise as I possibly can and not dilly-dally too much with my answers for each of these. I want them to be authentic and genuine and a little spontaneous. So here we go. The first prompt is Selection Sunday, meaning an upcoming release that I'm really looking forward to. The first thing that comes to mind is This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. It comes out the very beginning of March, and I'm legitimately so excited for this book. I loved the first book in the Skyland series, Before I Let Go, and I just cannot wait to spend more time with these characters. I think this book is also a second chance romance, and I am hype. The next prompt is Sweet 16, a teen protagonist that you love. Oh Lord, I don't love teenage protagonists in general. I really struggle with that age because I think I mentioned this in another video, but the impulsivity that comes with younger protagonists just grinds my gears. But you know what? A teen or kind of a young protagonist who I find really compelling is Ren from the Poppy War. She is a flawed, interesting character. And as she's in this war school and you get to know her, she's not an easy to root for character, but she is fascinating. And I'm excited to continue on the series and see what she gets up to next. So it's not that I love her, like she's my all-time favorite, but I find her so interesting. And I'm really looking forward to continuing on in her journey. So that's probably the first protagonist that comes to mind. The only other character, like a young, I'm not sure if she's a teenager quite, but on the cusp, she's a tween maybe, is Amari from Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. I love this series. I think the 3rd book comes out later this year, and Amari is so kind and clever and thoughtful, and I just really enjoy her as a main protagonist. In the first book, you're following Amari as she's kind of going on this quest to find her missing brother, and through that she discovers this entire Bureau of Magic, and of course she is thrust into this world of magic, and she learns that she has some powers herself. It's a really exciting series, and so Amari might be another tween teenager protagonist that I do really love her. She's great. All right, the next prompt is Final 4. Any top 4 books you think of. Top 4 you've read recently, top 4 you've bought and are eager to get to, top 4 books on your TBR, top 4 books on your shelf. Be creative. Okay, great. Here are the top 4 books that come to mind in this moment. I don't want to just say my TBR because those are obviously the books that are top of mind for me because I just filmed my TBR video a week or so ago. So maybe I'll say my Gosh, I don't know. I feel pressured. Okay, 4 books, go. We're gonna talk about my 4 most reread books on my Libby, Audible, Kindle, whatever. The series that I've probably reread the most is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I have probably read this series, oh my God, 5 or 6 times, especially the first duet. I've read that a lot. I read it a lot. A lot. The next book or series that I've reread what feels like a gazillion times is The Ravenels by Lisa Kleypas. I have spent so much time with that family and just gushing over each one of their love stories. It is just so wholesome, so cozy, so sweet, and I love that series. The next book or series that I've reread is Manacled. I have read this book. I read it for the first time in October, and I have read it 5 times since October of 2023. And it is a chunky book. I legitimately don't know how I've had as much time to reread / listen to that story. I think there's something wrong with me. I think I have a problem. And then another series that I've reread, honestly, as basic as this sounds, is probably the ACOTAR series. When I first discovered that series, 5 years ago or whatever, I devoured it. I sort of would read what was published and then immediately start it back over. I had such a good time. I recognize that now it is incredibly hype and so popular across all of the bookish platforms. The first book is a bit of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. My absolute favorite book in that series is A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second book. But I know a lot of people really like A Court of Silver Flames. But I've reread that series also numerous times. So those are probably my top 4 most reread books / book series. The next prompt is Championship Game, a book that has a competition or duel. The first thing that pops to mind is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is the first book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. The first book centers a trial where all of these competitors are fighting to the death, essentially. And I love that series. I love the main character, Araya. She's really interesting. It's got a romance element to it as well. That first book, especially, the competition is like the center plot. That's the first book that popped into my mind. The next prompt is 16 Seed, an underrated book series that deserves love. I feel like a broken record, but if you haven't read the Mages of the Wheel series by J.D. Evans, you absolutely need to. Yes. Sorry, Francis needed a little love. That series is so underrated. It's so underhyped. It's such an interesting world. Each book in the series follows a different couple, and they're each endearing in their own way. I'm obsessed. I love it. I feel like I'm screaming from my rooftop, please read this series, because it's so good and I don't feel like enough people talk about it. Another series that comes to mind as being pretty underrated is The Black Witch Chronicles by Laurie Forrest. I think the next book in this series comes out sometime in 2024, later in the year. And that's another series, a fantasy series that I'm not sure has gotten as much hype as I think it's deserving. The next prompt is The Top #1 Seed, a good but overhyped book. Oh man, I feel like there's quite a few that I could mention. I think the first one that comes to mind is the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. In my opinion, this series is fine. It's not extraordinary. It's not the best thing I've ever read, not even the best thing by that author. But I feel like because Sarah J. Maas has really exploded in popularity recently, this series isn't quite as hyped as ACOTAR or Throne of Glass, but is kind of in the same realm. And I just thought it was okay. Another overhyped but still good series is the Iron Flame series by Rebecca Yarros. As an avid fantasy romance reader, this series is fine. It's good, but I don't totally understand how incredibly hyped it is. It's fun, it's a quick read, but it's nothing special. And so, again, it's a book that's good, but I don't totally understand the out of this world hype for it. The next prompt is a buzzer beater, a book that surprised you in a good or bad way. A book that surprised me in a good or bad way. I think a book that comes to mind initially is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This was a book club pick that we read back in January. This was a real pleasant surprise. I wasn't anticipating liking this book and finding it as fascinating as I did. I think it's a really interesting, thought-provoking book that's very atmospheric and kind of melancholy. It was really interesting and really surprised me, especially like how much it stuck with me since then. Another book that surprised me in a pleasant way was Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I went into the story pretty blind, not really knowing much about what it was, and I was just so surprised by how whimsical it was. I think because I'm reading Stormlight Archive, and it's just so vast and kind of intense that Trust of the Emerald Sea has a very different energy to it, and I was so delighted by it. I had such a fun time. I loved Tress. She was such a likable character, and it was just, yeah, very whimsy. I really, really loved it. I think a book that surprised me in a horrible way was when I read A Lady of Darkness by, oh my gosh, who is that even by? Melissa Rohirch. This is also like a very popular book on Book Talk and Twitter and such, and I do not understand it. The main character was so annoying to me. I hate is a strong word, but I was so surprised by how vehemently I disliked this book. I was surprised by my hate fire that came out of reading this book. It was not for me. The next prompt is favorite team, your favorite squad in a book. I mean, I feel like the first thing that comes to mind is the Dregs from Six of Crows. I love that little group, you know, being part of them as they're going on these heists and adventuring and, you know, overcoming challenges. And I love them. And I love their portrayal in the Shadow and Bone TV show. What's another group that I really, really like? From Theft of Swords, I'm forgetting what that series is by Michael J. Sullivan. Oh my god, what was that series called? The Rhaenyra Revelations. The like friendship, the dynamic duo of the two main guys, Hadrian and what was the other guy? Royce. I loved them. Their dynamic was so funny, and I loved the found family element of that book. Well, that series. Does anybody else come to mind? Those are probably the top two, like the first things that came into my brain. The next prompt says mascot, a favorite animal sidekick. I feel like, I don't know if this technically counts, but I read Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater last year, the year before. And I feel like there was like this funny bone dog sidekick, bone chicken. What was it? Wait, was it in this series? Oh, maybe I'm thinking of a different book. Hold please. Nettle and Bone was the book that I was thinking of with the cute little bone chicken by T. Kingfisher. I don't think this was a book that I loved. Like, I think I ended up giving it a 3 stars. The Bone Dog Sidekick. I remember that little side animal companion side character was by far my favorite part of the story. The next prompt is a bracket buster, a book that hurt you. A book that hurt me. Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. This hurt me in the sense that I was like really disappointed by it. It just didn't live up to, it's a very popular and highly rated book. And so I felt a little devastated that I didn't like it more than I did. It's another book that like maybe broke my brain or made me really sad. I don't read a lot of sad books, to be honest. My work is very emotionally draining, so I tend to avoid like tearjerker kind of books. You know what book I did read that made me so emotional I had to like put it down for a while was A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Bachman. I read it before the Tom Hanks movie came out. I've never actually seen that movie adaptation of it. I've seen the non-English adaptation. I watched that with my mom because her and I buddy read this book together, and I do remember being like just ripped apart. Like my heart could not handle the emotion of that story. So that's probably the best answer that I could give for this one. All right, the last prompt is sports bar, a book with a great setting. I think A Deadgin in Cairo by P. Jelly Clark had a really interesting setting. I think it takes place in kind of like a mythical Egypt. And I remember that setting being really fascinating. The Small Town from Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I also loved that setting. I really like a small town romance or a small town quaint vibe. I would say another setting or like world that I really, really love is the like fictional world of Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like I love how she's created these like fake celebrities that feel so real. I would catch myself like looking them up on IMDb or on Google. And I feel like that really speaks to how immersed in this world you are and how real the characters feel. So I also like love the setting of those books in this kind of like fictional real world. Plus I like her writing a lot. I know that she's not the author for everybody and some people find her works to be a bit overrated, but I really, really enjoy those books and I really like the setting. All right, that was our March Madness book tag. I had a lot of fun doing this. I love a good tag. Who doesn't though? So that's all I've got for you guys today. I am gonna tag a few additional YouTube content creators. So I officially tag Becca from Becca Books and Bujo. I'll tag Joshana. I'll tag Mix Library. If you end up doing this video, I can't wait. Make sure to tag me so I can watch. And I'll see you guys in the next video soon. Bye.